Brokeback Mountain is a 2005 American neo-western romantic drama film directed by Ang Lee and produced by Diana Ossana and James Shamus. Adapted from the 1997 short story by Annie Proulx, the screenplay was written by Ossana and Larry McMurtry. The film stars Heath Ledger, Jake Gyllenhaal, Anne Hathaway, and Michelle Williams. Its plot depicts the complex romantic relationship between two American cowboys, Ennis Delmar and Jack Twist, in the American West from 1963 to 1983. Lee became attached to the project in 2001 after previous attempts to adapt Proulx's story into a film did not materialize. Focus Features and River Road Entertainment would jointly produce and distribute the film. After Ledger and Gyllenhaal's casting was announced in 2003, filming commenced in various locations in Alberta in 2004. Brokeback Mountain premiered at the 2005 Venice International Film Festival, where it won the Golden Lion, and was released to theaters on December 9 that year. The film received widespread critical acclaim, with high praise for the performances of Ledger and Gyllenhaal. It emerged as a commercial success at the box office, grossing over $178 million worldwide against its $14 million budget, and won various accolades. At the 78th Academy Awards, Brokeback Mountain was nominated for Best Picture and won for Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Original Score. It garnered 7 nominations at the 63rd Golden Globe Awards, winning Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Director, and Best Screenplay and Best Song. At the 59th British Academy Film Awards, Brokeback Mountain had 9 nominations, winning Best Film, Best Direction, Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor, Gyllenhaal. It was the film that topped the Best of the Year lists. 3. Brokeback Mountain was subject to controversies. Its loss to Crash, 2004, for the Academy Award for Best Picture, subsequent censorship and criticism from conservative media outlets received significant attention. The sexuality of the main characters has been subject to discussion. Brokeback Mountain has also been regarded as a turning point for the advancement of queer cinema into the mainstream. In 2018, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant and was listed on the ballot for the American Film Institute's list of AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movies, 10th Anniversary Edition. Since then, it has been ranked by several publications, film critics, and scholars as one of the best films of the 2005 the 21st century 6 and of all time. 7-8. Plot. In Wyoming in 1963, cowboys Ennis Delmar and Jack Twist are hired by rancher Joe Aguirre to herd his sheep through the summer on grazing pastures on Brokeback Mountain. After a night of heavy drinking, Jack makes a pass at Ennis. While initially reluctant, Ennis becomes receptive, and he and Jack have sex in their tent. Despite Ennis telling Jack that it was a one-time incident, they develop a sexual and emotional relationship. Near the end of their work contract, Ennis and Jack have a brawl that leaves both of them bloodied. Before parting ways, Ennis offhandedly laments that he left one of his shirts on the mountain. Ennis marries his longtime fiancée Alma Beers and they have 2 daughters, Alma Jr. and Jenny. Jack returns the next summer seeking work, but Aguirre, who observed Jack and Ennis engaging in homosexual activity on the mountain, tells him he has no work for guys who stem the rows. Jack moves to Texas, where he meets rodeo rider Lurayan Newsom, the daughter of a wealthy agricultural machinery manufacturer. They marry and have a son. After 4 years apart, Jack visits Ennis. Upon meeting, they kiss passionately, which a stunned Alma inadvertently sees. At a motel room, Jack wants them to create a life together, but Ennis refuses to abandon his family and is haunted by a childhood memory of his father showing him the body of a man who was tortured and killed for suspected homosexuality. Ennis and Jack meet infrequently for private fishing trips while their respective marriages deteriorate. Lurayan abandons the rodeo and goes into business with her father, with Jack working in sales. Lurayan's father has a strong dislike for Jack and openly disrespects and belittles him. Alma and Ennis divorce in 1975. Upon hearing about it, Jack drives to Wyoming and tells Ennis that they should live together, but Ennis refuses to move away from his children. Alma takes custody of Alma Jr. and Jenny, and marries Monroe, manager of the grocery store where she works. Ennis is invited to Thanksgiving dinner. While alone in the kitchen, Alma confronts Ennis about Jack. The two spar, causing Ennis to storm out and cease contact with Alma. Ennis has a brief romantic relationship with Cassie, a waitress. Jack and Lurayan befriend Randall and LaShawn Malone, and it is implied that Jack and Randall have a brief affair. At the end of a tryst disguised as a fishing trip, Ennis says he cannot see Jack again for months due to work demands. The pair argue, before Jack embraces a crying Ennis. A postcard Ennis sent Jack is returned stamped with deceased. Ennis calls Jack's phone number. Lurayan answers and says Jack died when a car tire exploded in his face. While hearing what happened, Ennis envisions men fatally beating Jack with a tire iron. Lurayan says Jack requested his ashes be scattered on Brokeback Mountain. Ennis visits Jack's parents hoping to carry out his wish. Jack's father declares that Jack's ashes will be interred in a family plot. Jack's mother allows Ennis to visit Jack's old bedroom. Ennis finds the shirt he thought he left on the mountain, which Jack had secretly kept, nested inside one of Jack's shirts. Ennis embraces the shirts and silently weeps. Jack's mother allows him to keep them. Years later, an aging Ennis lives alone and reclusive in a trailer. His grown daughter, Alma Jr. visits him to announce her engagement to Kurt, who works in the oil fields. She asks for her father's blessing and invites him to the wedding. Ennis hesitates to come due to upcoming work commitments, then agrees to attend the wedding. As Alma Jr. leaves, she forgets her jacket, so Ennis puts it into the closet where the two shirts hang, Jack's shirt now inside Ennis's. Next to them, tacked to the closet door, is a postcard of Brokeback Mountain. With tears in his eyes, he stares at the mementos, and says, "Jack, I swear." Cast: Heath Ledger as Ennis Del Mar. Jake Gyllenhaal as Jack Twist. Michelle Williams as Alma Beers Del Mar. Anne Hathaway as Lorraine Newsom Twist. Randy Quaid as Joe Aguirre. Linda Cardellini as Cassie Cartwright. Anna Faris as LaShawn Malone. David Harbour as Randall Malone. Roberta Maxwell as Mrs. Twist. Peter McRobbie as John Twist. Kate Mara as Alma Del Mar Jr. Scott Michael Campbell as Monroe. Graham Beckel as L.D. Newsom. Mary Lebo Iron as Fayette Newsom. Larry Reese as Jolly Minister. Marty Antonini as Timmy. Credits adapted from TV Guide. 9. Production. Development. Director Ang Lee in 2013. Screenwriter Diana Ossana discovered Annie Proulx's short story, Brokeback Mountain, in October 1997, just days after its publication. She convinced writing partner Larry McMurtry to read it. He thought it was a masterpiece. The pair asked Proulx if they could adapt it into a film screenplay. Although she did not think that the story would work as a film, she agreed. 10 In a 1999 interview with the Missouri Review, Proulx praised their screenplay. 11 Ossana said that convincing a director and production company to make the film was a challenging and non-stop process. 10 Gus Van Sant attempted to make the film, hoping to cast Matt Damon and Joaquin Phoenix as Ennis and Jack, respectively. He also considered Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Ryan Phillip. 12 Josh Hartnett was originally attached to the film but dropped out due to scheduling conflicts with the Black Dahlia. 13 Damon, who previously worked with Van Sant on Good Will Hunting, told the director, "Gus, I did a gay movie, The Talented Mr. Ripley, then a cowboy movie, All the Pretty Horses. I can't follow it up with a gay cowboy movie." 14 Instead, Van Sant went on to make the 2008 biographical film Milk, based on the life of gay rights activist and politician Harvey Milk. According to Ossana, Edward Norton, Joel Schumacher and dozens of others were approached to direct. They all came back saying they loved it but no one would commit. 15-16. Focus Features CEO James Shamus optioned the film rights in 2001, but thought it was a risky project. Pedro Almodovar was initially offered the opportunity to direct, but turned it down, citing concerns about artistic freedom. 17 At Ossana's request, Shamus showed the story and screenplay to director Ang Lee. 10 Lee decided to make Hulk instead. His experience of Hulk, and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon from 2 years prior left him exhausted. In 2003, he considered retirement but Brokeback Mountain came back to his mind and tempted him back into filmmaking. 18 Lee attempted to get the film made as an independent producer. 15 However, this did not work out, and before Lee would take a break after finishing Hulk, he contacted Shamus about Brokeback Mountain. 19 Shamus thought Brokeback Mountain embraced the American West without being a traditional Western. 20 and told Lee that he should consider directing it. Lee said, towards the end of the script, "I got tears in my eyes." 21 He was particularly drawn to the authentic rural American life and repression depicted in the story. 21-22 Bill Pollard of River Road Entertainment, who had a 2-year partnership with Focus Features, helped finance the film. 23. Casting. Casting director A.V. Kaufman said Lee was very decisive about the actors for the lead roles. In 2003, screenwriters Ossana and McMurtry suggested Heath Ledger, after being impressed by his performance in Monsters Ball, but the film studio thought he was not masculine enough. Regardless, Kaufman sent the script to Ledger, who thought it was beautiful and put himself forward. 10-18 Gyllenhaal reacted to the script positively and signed on for the role. He also did not want to miss the opportunity to work with Lee and friend Ledger. Lee met with Mark Wahlberg for a role in the film, but Wahlberg declined as he was creeped out by the script. 24 Gyllenhaal admired Ledger and described him as way beyond his years as a human. 25-26 Other actors were considered for the leads but Lee and Gyllenhaal said they were too afraid to take on the roles. 27-28 From the beginning, Ledger wanted to portray Ennis and not Jack. He opined that Ennis was more complex, a masculine and homophobic character. Ledger said, the lack of words Ennis had to express himself, his inability to love, made the role enjoyable. 29 Ledger, who grew up around horses, researched his character's personal traits, and learned to speak in Wyoming and Texas accents. 29-30 Lee gave Ledger and Gyllenhaal books about cowboys who were gay or shared similar experiences as the characters depicted in Pruiks' story. 25 Gyllenhaal later said that what ties these two characters together is not just a love, but a loneliness. I think primarily it was deep loneliness. And what I always say about that movie Brokeback Mountain, which I think maybe over time is more understood, is that this is about two people desperately looking for love. To be loved. And who were probably capable of it. And they just found it with someone of the same sex. And that does not dismiss the fact that it is about, really, primarily, the first kind of very profound gay love story. Hopefully it can create an equality of an idea, that is, it's possible that you can find love anywhere. That intimacy exists in so many places that convention and society won't always allow us to see. And we won't allow ourselves to see, because of what criticism and danger, really it might provoke. 25. Lee interviewed between 20 and 30 actresses for the roles of Alma and Lorraine. Michelle Williams was one of the first to audition for the role of Alma, and Lee thought she was perfect for the part. 10 Anne Hathaway, who was filming The Princess Diaries 2, Royal Engagement at the time, showed up to the audition during her lunch break. She was wearing a ball gown and hairpiece that was way over the top, but she still felt focused for the audition. 18 At first, Lee did not think she was an obvious choice, but he was convinced with her audition and cast her as Lorraine. Hathaway lied to Lee about her knowledge of horse riding in order to be cast. 31 She took lessons for 2 months to prepare. 32. Lee was happy with Ledger and Gyllenhaal portraying Ennis and Jack, respectively, because he thought their young innocence will help carry a love story until the end. Lee added, I think these two are among the best in their age group. Jake plays the opposite of Heath and it creates a very good couple in terms of a romantic love story. The chemistry, I think, is great. 21 Once all 4 leads were cast, Lee remembered being impressed with their maturity despite their young age. It really scared me how good they were. 10. Filming. Brokeback Mountain was filmed in Alberta, Canada. Principal photography began in the summer of 2004. 33 While the Pruiks story is set in Wyoming, Brokeback Mountain was filmed almost entirely in the Canadian Rockies in southern Alberta. Lee was given a tour of the locations from the story in Wyoming by Pruiks, but chose to shoot in Alberta citing financial reasons. 19 The mountain featured in the film is a composite of Mount Lougheed south of the town of Kenmore, Fortress, and Moose Mountain in Kananaskis Country. 34 The campsites were filmed at Goat Creek, Upper Kananaskis Lake, Elbow Falls and Canyon Creek, also in Alberta. Other scenes were filmed in Cowley, Fort Macleod, and Calgary. 35 Brokeback Mountain's production budget was approximately $14 million. 36. Initially, Alberta's Environmental Department prohibited the crew from bringing domestic sheep into the Rockies, due to a risk of disease harming the local wildlife. The authorities eventually gave permission for them to shoot on one mountain, as long as they transported the domestic sheep in and out, every day. A biologist was hired to supervise this process. 10. Lee prefers working with cinematographers who are open-minded, eager to learn, and able to show an interest in the story and content before talking about the visuals. 37 Therefore, he selected Rodrigo Prieto for the job, saying, I think he's versatile, and I wanted somebody who could shoot quickly. He was able to give me the tranquil, almost passive look I wanted for Brokeback. I believe a talent's a talent. 37. Ledger and Gyllenhaal, who were friends before Brokeback Mountain, were mostly unconcerned with the intimate scenes. 30 The first sex scene between Ennis and Jack took 13 takes to meet Lee's expectation. The director would keep his distance from them during filming, allowing the actors to be free and spontaneous. Lee said, I don't talk too much to them except for technical notes. So the intimate scenes are a lot easier to deal with. 21 Ledger was observant of Lee's directing style, saying, there's two sides to Ang's direction. There's the pre-production, which is incredibly thorough and private, and then there's the shooting side, when he just doesn't say anything at all. 29 Ledger said that this helped him try harder during takes. 29 Gyllenhaal echoed Ledger's sentiment, he just totally disconnects from you while you're shooting, but praised Lee's directorial skills. 25 In regard to acting, Ledger was sometimes disrupted by Gyllenhaal's acting style. Gyllenhaal tended to improvise whereas Ledger preferred to be highly prepared. 10:18 The director allowed Ledger to see his performance on the camera monitor so that he could improve. 30. During the last scenes where Ennis meets Jack's parents, production designer Judy Becker was tasked in finding a suitable house. Lee took inspiration from painters Andrew Wyeth and Wilhelm Hammershoy for the white interior walls. Using 2 cameras, Lee would capture the actors from both angles, and then change lenses and repeat. When you edit it together, you can apply certain emphasis to certain reactions, emotions, Lee said. 37 Asana remembers that the last scenes were emotional for Ledger and personally affected him. The actors who played Jack's parents, Roberta Maxwell and Peter McRobbie, said Ledger was very quiet and gave a powerful performance. 10. In the old school way, People really used to spend their time together. They became a family. And that's what Ang created on the movie. It's why we are all still close, not just bonded by the success of the film, but bonded by the experience. It was an intimate project in that way. We'd wake up and make breakfast for each other, and hang out. Gyllenhaal on the film's experience 10. Executive producer Michael Houseman rented Airstream trailers for the cast and crew to sleep in. He created an on-set atmosphere which mimicked a summer camp, where people could bond and feel close. Houseman recalled that they would sit around the fireplaces, cook food, and go fishing on the creek. 10. The production was not without commotion. The cast suffered several injuries during filming. Williams sprained her knee in the early days of filming, therefore, her character's movements were altered to be either sitting or standing most of the time. Ledger also injured his hand when he punched a wall for a scene. 18. During a kissing scene, Ledger almost broke Gyllenhaal's nose. 21. The American Humane raised concerns that animals were treated improperly during filming, alleging that sheep were handled roughly and that an elk appeared to have been shot on cue. They learned that the elk was shot with anesthetic, violating standard guidelines for animal handling in the film industry. 38. During post-production, Geraldine Perroni and Dylan Titchener served as film editors, but Perroni died in August 2004 and Titchener took over. 39. The pair relied on Media Composer for editing, and sound engineer Eugene Gearty used Pro Tools for the creation of sound effects. 39. Buzz Image Group were hired to create 75 visual effect shots, including computer-generated clouds, landscapes and sheep. 37. For the film's theatrical poster, Shamas took inspiration from James Cameron's Titanic, which depicts two star-crossed lovers. 40. Music. Main article, Brokeback Mountain, original motion picture soundtrack. Gustavo Santaolalla scored the film's soundtrack, which consists of 17 tracks as well as songs from Bob Dylan and Roger Miller. The album was released on October 25, 2005. 41. Based on the story and one conversation with the director, Santaolalla was able to score the music before filming began. 42. He said, "I mean, if you are connected to the story and to the director, it makes a lot of sense because somehow the music then becomes a part of the fabric of that film from the very beginning." 43. 44. He also used a real orchestra and played his own guitar. 45. Release. Box office. The film received a limited release in the United States on December 9, 2005 46 and grossed $547,425 in its first weekend. 47. Over the Christmas weekend, and beginning of January 2006, the film expanded into more domestic theaters. On January 20, the film opened in 1,194 theaters, then 1,652 theaters on January 27, and 2,089 theaters on February 3, its widest release. 47. Brokeback Mountain was released in one theater in London on December 30 and received a wider release in the United Kingdom on January 6, 2006. 48. 49. The film was released in France on January 18, to 155 theaters, expanding to 290 by the third week. In its first week of release, Brokeback Mountain was in third place at the French box office. In Italy, the film grossed more than €890,000 in 3 days and was the fourth highest grossing film in its first week. 47. The film was released in Australia on January 26, where it ranked fourth place at the weekend box office. Brokeback Mountain was released in many other countries during the first 3 months of 2006. 50. During its first week of release in Hong Kong, Brokeback Mountain was ranked first place at the box office, earning more than $473,868, $22,565 per theater. 51. The film opened in Lee's native Taiwan on January 20. The film grossed $83 million in North America and $95 million internationally, for a worldwide $178 million. It is the highest grossing release for Focus Features. 47. 52. The film was re-released in theaters on June 22 and 25, 2025 to celebrate its 20th anniversary. 53. International distribution. The film has been given different titles in accordance to different languages and regions. For the film's release in French, Italian, and Portuguese, it was titled Le Secret de Brokeback Mountain, I Segredo de Brokeback Mountain and O Segredo de Brokeback Mountain, The Secret, of Brokeback Mountain, respectively. 54. 55. 56. In Canadian French, the title is Souvenirs de Brokeback Mountain, Memories of Brokeback Mountain. 57. 58. The film received 2 Spanish titles, Brokeback Mountain, and Terreno Vedado, in a Forbidden Terrain, for its release in Spain. 59. And Secreto en la Montana, Secret in the Mountain, for its release in Latin America. 60. In Hungarian, the title was Tulla Barátságon, Beyond Friendship. 61. I think they are genuinely happy to see a Chinese director win an Academy Award with good artistic value. I think that pride is genuine, so I would not think that's hypocritical at all. I don't know how to describe it. it's just something else. So what can I say? Ang Lee, responding to being celebrated in China for winning the Best Director Academy Award, although the film was not released there. 62. The film was met with mixed responses in some regions, particularly China and Islamic nations of Western Asia. According to reports, the film was not shown in theaters in China, though it was freely available in bootleg DVD and VHS. The Chinese government said the audience would have been too small. The foreign media accused the government of censorship. 63-64 The word Brokeback, Chinese, Pinyin, Duanbei, also entered the Chinese lexicon as a slang for homosexuality. 65 Brokeback Mountain was dubbed the gay cowboy movie by the press, a term that was propelled into the American vernacular. 26 The film was also released in Turkey. 66. In the Middle East, distribution of the film became a political issue. Homosexuality is criminalized in most Islamic nations and is taboo in the few countries where it is legal. Lebanon was the only Arab country to show the film, although in a censored format. The film was officially banned from screenings in the United Arab Emirates. However, the DVD of the film was permitted to be rented from stores such as Blockbuster Video. 67-68. On December 8, 2008, the Italian state-owned television channel Rai 2 aired a censored version of the film, removing all the scenes with homoerotic references. Viewers protested, saying the deletions made the plot hard to follow. The Arsigai organization accused the channel of homophobic censorship. 69 The state-owned television network Rai said the Italian film distributor had mistakenly censored the film. Rai showed an uncensored version of the film on March 17, 2009. 70. Home media. Brokeback Mountain was the first major film to be released simultaneously on both DVD and digital download via the internet. 71 It was released in the United States on April 4, 2006. 72 More than 1 million copies of the DVD were sold in the first week, and it was the third biggest seller of the week, behind Disney's The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and King Kong. 73 Although the ranking fluctuated daily, by late March and early April 2006, Brokeback Mountain had been the top-selling DVD on Amazon.com for several days running. 74. The DVD in Europe was released in the UK on April 24, 2006. 75 This was followed by France in July, and Poland in September, a considerable time after the theater release in both countries. 76 Brokeback Mountain was re-released in a collector's edition on January 23, 2007. 77 On the same day, it was also released in HD DVD format. 78 The film was released on Blu-ray in the UK on August 13, 2007, and in the US on March 10, 2009. 79-80 The Blu-ray contains special features including interviews with the screenwriters, director, and a short documentary about composer Gustavo Santaolalla. 81 Kino Lorber released the film on Ultra HD Blu-ray on July 16, 2024. 82. Critical response. Brokeback Mountain was released to critical acclaim. 83 On the review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 88% based on 253 reviews. The site's critical consensus reads, "A beautifully epic western, Brokeback Mountain's love story is imbued with heartbreaking universality, helped by moving performances by Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal." 84 On Metacritic, the film has a rating of 87/100 based on 41 reviews, indicating universal acclaim. 85. The performances of Heath Ledger, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Michelle Williams garnered widespread critical acclaim, earning them Academy Award nominations for Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress respectively. David Anson of Newsweek gave the film a positive review, praising the faithful screenplay. He adds, "There's neither coyness nor self-importance in Brokeback Mountain, just close, compassionate observation, deeply committed performances, a bone-deep feeling for hardscrabble Western lives. Few films have captured so acutely the desolation of frustrated, repressed passion." 86 Writing for The Guardian, Peter Bradshaw praised Ledger and Gyllenhaal for their complimentary performances. Bradshaw thought the film was extremely moving, tragic even, and sensitive towards the feelings of the simple wives who attempt to understand their troubled husbands. 87 Ann Hornaday of The Washington Post was equally positive, opining that the two lead actors' performances were unforgettable. In particular, she thought Ledger was impressive in his portrayal of a reserved and emotionally affected Ennis. Hornaday also praised the costumes and sets, writing, "The Wyoming vistas are flawlessly manicured, Ledger and Gyllenhaal perfectly costumed and coiffed, even Ennis and Alma's sad little apartment over a laundromat seems to have been designed to death." 88. Roger Ebert gave Brokeback Mountain a rating of 4 out of 4 stars in his review. Ebert was impressed with the level of attention to the characters, and thought that the film was as observant as the work by Swedish filmmaker Ingmar Bergman. 89 Writing for the Sydney Morning Herald, Sandra Hall praised the screenplay and called Ledger and Gyllenhaal finely tuned. Noting that it is a slow film, Hall thought the filmmakers had adapted Proulx's story without missing any nuances. 90 USA Today's Mike Clark observed that Brokeback Mountain was directed and photographed with restraint, and praised its old-fashioned quality, and unassuming but people-oriented nature. 91 The film also received a positive reaction from Christianity Today. The reviewer gave the film 3 out of 4 stars. 92 In a mixed review, Ed Gonzalez of Slant Magazine thought the film was too long. 93 And the critic from Time Magazine felt that the story became less intense towards the end. 94 Conservative radio host Michael Medved described it as extremely well done and that as a film, it was better than the agenda. 95. Several conservative political pundits, including commentators Bill O'Reilly, John Gibson, and Cal Thomas, shared Medved's view of the agenda. Gibson made jokes about the film on his Fox News radio program for months after its release. After the death of Ledger in 2008, Gibson was criticized for mocking the deceased actor, and later apologized. 96 Conservative radio host Rush Limbaugh referred to the film as Bareback Mountain and Humpback Mountain. 97 Don Imus referred to the film as Fudgepack Mountain. 98 Several conservative Christian groups, such as Concerned Women for America, CWA, and Focus on the Family, criticized the film for its subject matter. Following the success of Brokeback Mountain, Capote, and Transamerica at the Golden Globes Awards in 2006, Janice Krause, a CWA member, cited these films as examples of how the media elites are proving that their pet projects are more important than profit, and suggested they were not popular enough to warrant critical acclaim. 99. Film critic Jean Shalit, of The Today Show, described the character of Jack Twist as a sexual predator who tracks Ennis down and coaxes him into sporadic trysts. 100 The LGBTQ media group GLAAD said that Shalit's characterization of Twist was like calling Jack in Titanic a sexual predator due to his romantic pursuit of Rose. 101 Shalit's openly gay son, Peter Shalit, wrote an open letter to GLAAD. Jean may have had an unpopular opinion of a movie that is important to the gay community, but he defamed no one, and he is not a homophobe. 102 Jean Shalit later apologized for his review. I did not intend to use a word that many in the gay community consider incendiary. I certainly had no intention of casting aspersions on anyone in the gay community or on the community itself. I regret any emotional hurt that may have resulted from my review of Brokeback Mountain. 101. Some commentators accused the filmmakers for hiding content about the film in advertising and in public events, such as press conferences and award ceremonies. New York Daily News writer Wayman Wong, Dave Cullen, and Daniel Mendelsohn argued that the director, cast, and publicists avoided using the word gay to describe the story, and noted that the film's trailer did not show a kiss between the two men but showed a heterosexual love scene. 103-104 The film's significance has been attributed to its portrayal of a same-sex relationship focused solely on the characters, as the film does not refer in any manner to the broader history of various LGBT social movements. 105 It emphasizes the tragic love story aspect, and many critics have compared Ennis and Jack's drama to classic and modern romances such as Romeo and Juliet or Titanic, often using the term star-crossed lovers. 106 107 108 Proulx praised the film as huge and powerful, adding, I may be the first writer in America to have a piece of writing make its way to the screen whole and entire. I was astonished that the characters of Jack and Ennis came surging into my mind again. 109. Critics lists of 2005. Brokeback Mountain appeared on numerous American critics lists as one of their favorite films of 2005. 110. First Stephen Holden, The New York Times. First Joe Morgenstern, The Wall Street Journal. First Renee Rodriguez, Miami Herald. First Ruthie Stein, San Francisco Chronicle. First Scott Tobias, The AV Club. Second Peter Traverse, Rolling Stone. Second Lisa Schwartzbaum, Entertainment Weekly. Second Noel Murray, The AV Club. Second Desson Thompson, The Washington Post. Second Kevin Thomas, Los Angeles Times. Second Mike Clark and Claudia Puig, USA Today. Third Owen Gleiberman, Entertainment Weekly. Third Kenneth Turin, Los Angeles Times. Third Sean Levy, Portland Oregonian. Third William Arnold, Seattle Post-Intelligencer. Fourth David Anson, Newsweek. Fourth Keith Phipps, The AV Club. Fourth Michael Atkinson, Village Voice. Fifth Roger Ebert, Chicago Sun-Times. Fifth Mike Russell, Portland Oregonian. Fifth Michael Wilmington, Chicago Tribune. Sixth Allison Benedict, Chicago Tribune. Sixth Ella Taylor, LA Weekly. Seventh Nathan Rabin, The AV Club. Seventh Mick LaSalle, San Francisco Chronicle. Seventh Richard Roper, Ebert and Roper 111. Eighth Mick LaSalle, San Francisco Chronicle. Top 9, listed alphabetically, New York Film Critics Online. 10th Michael Phillips, Chicago Tribune. Top 10, listed alphabetically, Manala Dargis, The New York Times. Top 10, listed alphabetically, Stephen R.E.A., The Philadelphia Inquirer. Top 10, listed alphabetically, Peter Ringer, The Christian Science Monitor. Top 10, listed alphabetically, Karina Chicano, Los Angeles Times. The film was picked as one of the 400 nominated films for the American Film Institute list AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movies, 10th Anniversary Edition. 112 Entertainment Weekly put it on its end of the decade, Best of list. 113 in a 2016 international poll conducted by BBC, Brokeback Mountain was ranked the 40th greatest film since 2000. 114 in 2019, The Guardian ranked the film 66th in its 100 best films of the 21st century list. 115 in 2025, the film ranked number 17 on the New York Times list of the 100 best movies of the 21st century and number 30 on the Reader's Choice edition of the list. 117. Legal issues. On January 6, 2006, Utah Jazz owner Larry H. Miller removed the film from theaters at the Jordan Commons Entertainment Complex in Sandy, Utah. Miller said the film's content had no resemblance of a traditional family, which he believed is dangerous. 119 Focus Features threatened legal action and announced it would no longer do business with him. 119. On March 23, 2006, Randy Quaid, who portrayed Joe Aguirre in the film, filed a lawsuit against Focus Features for misrepresenting Brokeback Mountain as a low-budget, art house film with no prospect of making any money, in order to secure his role for a cheaper rate. 120 On May 4, Quaid's publicist said he dropped the lawsuit as the company agreed to pay him a settlement. The company denies this, however. 121. Accolades. Main article, list of accolades received by Brokeback Mountain. Brokeback Mountain garnered awards and nominations in a variety of categories, including for its directing, screenplay, acting, original score, and cinematography. At the 78th Academy Awards, Brokeback Mountain was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture and won 3 awards for Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Original Score. 122 The film garnered 7 nominations at the 63rd Golden Globe Awards, winning 4 for Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Director, Best Screenplay, and Best Song. 123 At the 59th British Academy Film Awards, Brokeback Mountain was nominated for 9 awards, winning in the categories of Best Film, Best Direction, Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor for Jake Gyllenhaal. 124. Best Picture Controversy. After Brokeback Mountain lost the Academy Award for Best Picture to Crash, some critics accused the Academy of homophobia and for making a non-groundbreaking choice. 125 commentators including Kenneth Turan and Nikki Finca derided the Academy's decision 126-127 but Roger Ebert defended the decision to award Crash Best Picture, arguing that the better film won. 128 Prulks wrote an essay expressing disappointment in the film not winning Best Picture. She also opined that Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance in Capote required less effort than that required of the actors in Brokeback Mountain. 129 Following the loss, more than 800 supporters raised up to $26,000 to place an advertisement in the Daily Variety. 130 The Advert thanked the filmmakers for transforming countless lives through the most honored film of the year. 132 The film is one of several highly acclaimed LGBT-related films of 2005 to be nominated for critical awards. Others include Breakfast on Pluto, Capote, Rent, and Transamerica. It was voted the top film involving homosexual relationships by readers at thebacklit.com. 133 In 2010, the Independent Film and Television Alliance selected the film as one of the 30 most significant independent films of the last 30 years. 134. In 2015, The Hollywood Reporter polled Academy members on controversial past decisions, in which Brokeback Mountain won the revote for Best Picture. 136. Characters' sexuality. Critics and the cast and crew disagreed as to whether the film's 2 protagonists were homosexual, bisexual, heterosexual, or should be free of any sexual orientation classification. The film was frequently referred to in the media as the gay cowboy movie, but a number of reviewers noted that both Jack and Ennis were bisexual. 137 138 139 Sex researcher Fritz Klein said that the film was a nice film with 2 main characters who were bisexual and suggested that the character of Jack is more toward the gay side of the spectrum and Ennis is a bit more toward the straight side. 140. Gyllenhaal said in 2006 that Ennis and Jack were straight men who developed this love, this bond, saying in a Details interview, "I approached the story believing that these are actually 2 straight guys who fall in love." 140 However, in 2015, he told The Hollywood Reporter that this was a gay love story, and that his character was the more overtly gay of the 2. 141 Ledger told Time magazine in 2005, "I don't think Ennis could be labeled as gay. Without Jack Twist, I don't know that he ever would have come out. I think the whole point was that it was 2 souls that fell in love with each other." 142. Others said they felt the character's sexuality was meant to be ambiguous. Clarence Patton and Christopher Murray of New York's Gay City News wrote that Ennis and Jack's experiences were metaphors for many men who do not identify as gay or even queer, but who nevertheless have sex with other men. 143 Entertainment Weekly wrote that everyone called it the gay cowboy movie until they saw it. In the end, Ang Lee's 2005 love story wasn't gay or straight, just human. 113 Tom Sciorcieri of eFilmCritic.com wrote, "We later see Jack eagerly engage Lorraine sexually, with no explanation as to whether he is bisexual, so in need of physical intimacy that anyone, regardless of gender, will do, or merely very adept at faking it." 144. LGBT nonfiction author Eric Marcus dismissed talk of Ennis and Jack being anything but gay as box office influenced political correctness intended to steer straight audiences to the film. Roger Ebert believed that both characters were gay, but doubted it themselves. Jack is able to accept a little more willingly that he is inescapably gay. 145 Producer James Shamus said, "I suppose movies can be Rorschach tests for all of us, but damn if these characters aren't gay to me." 140 Brokeback Mountain author Annie Proulx said, "How different readers take the story is a reflection of their own personal values, attitudes, hang-ups." 147 When Ledger and Gyllenhaal were asked if they feared being cast in controversial roles, Ledger stated that he was not afraid of the role, but rather he was concerned that he would not be mature enough as an actor to do the story justice. Gyllenhaal has stated that he is proud of the film and his role, regardless of what the reactions would be. He considered rumors of him being bisexual flattering, stating, "I'm open to whatever people want to call me. I've never really been attracted to men sexually, but I don't think I would be afraid of it if it happened." 148 Lee described himself as shy upon shooting the first sex scene and initially found it technically difficult but praised Ledger and Gyllenhaal for their professionalism. 149 Ledger's performance was described by Luke Davies as a difficult and empowering portrayal given the environment of the film. In Brokeback Mountain, the vulnerability, the potential for danger, is so great, a world so masculine it might destroy you for any aberration that Ledger's real brilliance was to bring to the screen a character, Ennis Del Mar, so fundamentally shut down that he is like a Bible of unrequited desires, stifled yearnings, lost potential. 150. Author Jim Kitts has quoted Diana Ossana's acknowledgement of how the film subverts the myth of the American West and its iconic heroes. 151 He commented, "What drives the emotional attack of the film is the inadequacy of its characters to articulate and understand, let alone control, the experience that strikes them like a storm. American cowboys of all people have no business falling in love with each other. Practical and conservative types of a rough and ready manhood are by no means ready for man love." 151. Legacy and impact. Brokeback Mountain was lauded as a landmark in LGBT cinema and credited for influencing several films and television shows featuring LGBT themes and characters. 152 153 In Out at the Movies, Stephen Paul Davies explains that as a result of the film's success, most major film studios have been clamoring to get behind new, gay-themed projects. Thanks to Brokeback, film financiers will continue to back scripts that don't simply rely on gay stereotypes, and that will certainly be progress. Davies cites Milk, Transamerica, and I Love You Philip Morris as examples of such films. 154 In 2018, Brokeback Mountain was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. 155 The February 2020 issue of New York Magazine lists Brokeback Mountain as among the best movies that lost Best Picture at the Oscars. 156. The pair of shirts worn by Ledger's and Gyllenhaal's characters were sold on eBay on February 20, 2006, for $101,100 The shirts were sold to benefit children's charity Variety. 157 The buyer, Tom Gregory, film historian and collector, described the shirts as the ruby slippers of our time, referring to an artifact from the Wizard of Oz film. 158 In 2009, Gregory loaned the shirts to the Autry National Center in Los Angeles for its series, Out West, which explored the history of homosexual, bisexual, and transgender people in the Old West. The series included a gallery tour, panel discussions, lectures, and performances, with events held in 4 installments over the course of 12 months. According to the Autry, the series was the first of its kind for a Western heritage museum. 159. A Book, Beyond Brokeback, The Impact of a Film, 2007, is a collection of personal stories of how people were influenced by the story and film, compiled from members of the Ultimate Brokeback Forum website. In an associated Out West series program, the Autry screened Brokeback Mountain in December 2010 to commemorate the film's 5th anniversary and held a staged reading of Beyond Brokeback by historian and Out West organizer Gregory Hinton. Beyond Brokeback has been presented as a staged reading at other venues, such as Roosevelt University in Chicago, on November 13, 2011, together with a panel discussion and screening of the film. 160 An American Opera, Brokeback Mountain, was composed by Charles Warren with a libretto by Annie Proulx. Written in English, It premiered at the Teatro Real in Madrid on January 28, 2014. It was championed by impresario Gerard Mortier, who had commissioned it. 161-162, a play, based on Annie Proulx's short story, written by Ashley Robinson with songs by Dan Gillespie Sells, opened on May 10, 2023, at Soho Place in London's West End. 163. Several years after the film's release, Proulx said she regrets writing the story. She said that people have sent her too much fan fiction presenting alternative plots. 164. Some authors, mostly men claiming to understand men better than I do, often send their works. 164-165. She said, "The film is the source of constant irritation in my private life. There are countless people out there who think the story is open range to explore their fantasies and to correct what they see as an unbearably disappointing story. They constantly send ghastly manuscripts and pornish rewrites of the story to me, expecting me to reply with praise and applause for fixing the story. They certainly don't get the message that if you can't fix it, you've got to stand it. Most of these fix-it tales have the character Ennis finding a husky boyfriend and living happily ever after, or discovering the character Jack is not really dead after all, or having the two men's children meet and marry, etc., etc." Heath Ledger, April 4, 1979 January 22, 2008, was an Australian actor. After playing roles in several Australian television and film productions during the 1990s, he moved to the United States in 1998 to further develop his film career. His work consisted of 20 films in a variety of genres, including 10 Things I Hate About You, 1999, The Patriot, 2000, A Knight's Tale, Monsters Ball, both 2001, Casanova, Lords of Dogtown, Brokeback Mountain, all 2005, Candy, 2006, I'm Not There, 2007, The Dark Knight, 2008, and The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, 2009, the latter two of which were posthumously released. 1. He also produced and directed music videos and aspired to be a film director. 2. For his portrayal of Ennis Del Mar in Ang Lee's Brokeback Mountain, he received nominations for the BAFTA Award, 3 Screen Actors Guild Award, Golden Globe Award and the Academy Award for Best Actor, becoming the 8th youngest nominee in the category at that time. 4. In 2007, he played a fictional actor, Robbie Clark, one of 6 characters embodying aspects of Bob Dylan's life and persona in Todd Haynes' I'm Not There. 5. Ledger was found dead in January 2008 6-4 from an accidental overdose as a result of prescription drug abuse. 7. 8. 9. A few months before his death, he had finished filming his role as the Joker in The Dark Knight. The performance brought him praise and popularity, and numerous posthumous awards, including an Academy Award, a BAFTA Award, a Golden Globe, a SAG Award, and a Critics' Choice Award, all for Best Supporting Actor. 10. 3. 11. Early life and education. Ledger was born on April 4, 1979 in Perth, Western Australia, to Sally Ramshaw, a French teacher, and Kim Ledger, a racing car driver and mining engineer whose family established and owned the Ledger Engineering Foundry. 12. The Sir Frank Ledger Charitable Trust is named after his great-grandfather Frank Ledger. 12. He had English, Irish, and Scottish ancestry. 13. Ledger attended Mary's Mount Primary School in Gooseberry Hill. 14. And later Guildford Grammar School, where he had his first acting experiences, starring in a school production as Peter Pan at age 10. 4. 12. His parents separated when he was 10 and divorced when he was 11. 15. Ledger's older sister Kate, an actress and later a publicist, with whom he was very close, inspired his acting on stage, and his love of Gene Kelly inspired his successful choreography, leading to Guildford Grammar's 60-member team's first all-boy victory at the Rock Estetvad Challenge. 12. 16. Ledger's two half-sisters are Ashley Bell, born 1990, his mother's daughter with her second husband Roger Bell, and Olivia Ledger, born 1996, his father's daughter with his second wife Emma Brown. 17. Career. 1990s. After sitting for early graduation exams at age 16 to get his diploma, Ledger left school to pursue an acting career. 15. With Trevor DiCarlo, his best friend since the age of 3, Ledger drove across Australia from Perth to Sydney, returning to Perth to take a small role in Clowning Around, 1991, the first part of a 2-part television series, and to work on the TV series Sweat, 1996, in which he played a cyclist. 12. From 1993 to 1997, Ledger also had parts in the Perth television series Ship to Shore, 1993. Ledger also had parts in the short-lived Fox Broadcasting Company fantasy drama Roar, 1997, in Home and Away, 1997, one of Australia's most successful television shows, and in the Australian film Black Rock, 1997, his feature film debut. 12. In 1999, he starred in the teen comedy 10 Things I Hate About You and in the acclaimed Australian crime film Two Hands, directed by Gregor Jordan. 12. 2000s. In the early 2000s, he starred in supporting roles as Gabriel Martin, the eldest son of Benjamin Martin, Mel Gibson, in The Patriot, 2000, and as Sonny Grotowski, the son of Hank Grotowski, Billy Bob Thornton, in Monsters Ball, 2001, as well as leading or title roles in A Knight's Tale, 2001, The Four Feathers, 2002, The Order, 2003, Ned Kelly, 2003, Casanova, 2005, The Brothers Grimm, 2005, and Lords of Dogtown, 2005. 18 In 2001, he won a Showist Award as Male Star of Tomorrow. 19. Ledger received Best Actor of 2005 awards from both the New York Film Critics Circle and the San Francisco Film Critics Circle for his performance in Brokeback Mountain 2021, in which he plays Wyoming ranch hand Ennis Del Mar, who has a love affair with aspiring rodeo rider Jack Twist, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. 22. He also received the nominations for a Golden Globe Award for Best Actor Motion Picture Drama, a Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Leading Role, a BAFTA Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role, and an Academy Award for Best Actor for this performance. 23. Making him, at age 26, the 8th youngest nominee in the category. 24. In the New York Times review of the film, critic Stephen Holden writes, both Mr. Ledger and Mr. Gyllenhaal make this anguished love story physically palpable. Mr. Ledger magically and mysteriously disappears beneath the skin of his lean, sinewy character. It is a great screen performance, as good as the best of Marlon Brando and Sean Penn. 25. In a review in Rolling Stone, Peter Travers states, Ledger's magnificent performance is an acting miracle. He seems to tear it from his insides. Ledger doesn't just know how Ennis moves, speaks and listens, he knows how he breathes. To see him inhale the scent of a shirt hanging in Jack's closet is to take measure of the pain of love lost. 26. After Brokeback Mountain, Ledger co-starred with fellow Australian Abbey Cornish in the 2006 Australian film Candy, an adaptation of the 1998 novel Candy, a novel of love and addiction, as young heroin addicts in love attempting to break free of their addiction, whose mentor is played by Geoffrey Rush. For his performance as sometime poet Dan, Ledger was nominated for 3 Best Actor awards, including one of the Film Critics Circle of Australia awards, which both Cornish and Rush won in their categories. Shortly after the release of Candy, Ledger was invited to join the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. 27. As one of 6 actors embodying different aspects of the life of Bob Dylan in the 2007 film I'm Not There, directed by Todd Haynes, Ledger won praise for his portrayal of Robbie Clark, a moody, counterculture actor who represents the romanticist side of Dylan, but says accolades are never his motivation. 28. Posthumously, on February 23, 2008, he shared the 2007 Independent Spirit Robert Altman Award with the rest of the film's ensemble cast, its director, and its casting director. 29. In his penultimate film role, Ledger played the Joker in Christopher Nolan's 2008 film The Dark Knight, which was released nearly 6 months after his death. While working on the film in London, Ledger told Sarah Lyle in their New York Times interview that he viewed The Dark Knight's Joker as a psychopathic, mass-murdering, schizophrenic clown with zero empathy. 30. For his performance in The Dark Knight, Ledger posthumously won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, becoming the 4th youngest winner of the award, which his family accepted on his behalf, as well as numerous other posthumous awards, including the Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor, which Nolan accepted for him. 31. 32. At the time of his death on January 22, 2008, Ledger had completed about half of the work for his final film role as Tony in Terry Gilliam's The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. 33. 34. Gilliam chose to adapt the film after his death by having fellow actors, and friends of Ledger, Johnny Depp, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell play fantasy transformations of his characters so that Ledger's final performance could be seen in theaters. 35. Directorial work. Ledger, far right, posing with the cast and the director of I'm Not There at the 64th Venice Film Festival in September 2007, just 4 months before his death. Ledger had aspirations to become a film director and had made some music videos with his production company The Masses, which director Todd Haynes praised highly in his tribute to Ledger upon accepting the ISP Robert Altman Award, which Ledger posthumously shared, on February 23, 2008. 29:36 In 2006, Ledger directed music videos for the title track on Australian hip-hop artist Enfa's CD debut solo album Cause and Effect 37 and for the single Seduction is Evil, She's Hot. 38:39 Later that year, Ledger inaugurated a new record label, The Masses Music, with singer Ben Harper and also directed a music video for Harper's song Morning Yearning. 30:40 At a news conference at the 2007 Venice Film Festival, Ledger spoke of his desire to make a documentary film about the British singer-songwriter Nick Drake, who died in 1974, at the age of 26, from an overdose of an antidepressant. 41 Ledger created and acted in a music video set to Drake's recording of the singer's 1974 song about depression, Black-Eyed Dog, a title inspired by Winston Churchill's descriptive term for depression, Black Dog. 42 It was shown publicly only twice, first at the Bumbershoot Festival, in Seattle, held from 1 to September 3, 2007, and secondly as part of A Place to Be, a celebration of Nick Drake, with its screening of Their Place, Reflections on Nick Drake, a series of short-filmed homages to Nick Drake, including Ledger's, sponsored by American Cinematheque, at the Grauman's Egyptian Theatre, in Hollywood, on October 5, 2007. 43 After Ledger's death, his music video for Black Eyed Dog was shown on the internet and excerpted in news clips distributed via YouTube. 41 44 45a. He was working with Scottish screenwriter and producer Alan Scott on an adaptation of the 1983 novel The Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis, which would have been his first feature film as a director. He also intended to act in the film, with Canadian actor Elliot Page proposed in the lead role. 246-47 Ledger's final directorial work, in which he shot 2 music videos before his death, premiered in 2009. 48 The music videos, completed for Modest Mouse and Grace Woodroof 49 include an animated feature for Modest Mouse's song King Rat, and the Woodroof video for her cover of David Bowie's Quicksand. 50 The King Rat video premiered on August 4, 2009. 51. Press controversies. Ledger's relationship with the Australian press was sometimes turbulent, and it led to his abandonment of plans for his family to reside part-time in Sydney. 52-53 In 2004, he strongly denied press reports alleging that he spat at journalists on the Sydney set of the film Candy, or that one of his relatives had done so later, outside Ledger's Sydney home. 52-53 On January 13, 2006, several members of the paparazzi retaliated, squirting Ledger and Williams with water pistols on the red carpet at the Sydney premiere of Brokeback Mountain. 54-55. After his performance on stage at the 2005 Screen Actors Guild Awards, when he had giggled in presenting Brokeback Mountain as a nominee for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture, the Los Angeles Times referred to his presentation as an apparent gay spoof. 56 Ledger called the Times later and explained that his levity resulted from stage fright, saying that he had been told that he would be presenting the award only minutes earlier. He stated, "I am so sorry and I apologize for my nervousness. I would be absolutely horrified if my stage fright was misinterpreted as a lack of respect for the film, the topic, and for the amazing filmmakers." 57-58. After learning that 2 cinemas in Utah refused to show Brokeback Mountain, Ledger said, "I don't think the movie is controversial, but I think maybe the Mormons in Utah do. I think it's hilarious and very immature of a society." 59 In the same interview with the Herald Sun newspaper, Ledger mistakenly claimed that lynchings had occurred in West Virginia as recently as the 1980s. State scholars disputed his statement, asserting that no documented lynchings had occurred in West Virginia since 1931. 60. Personal life. Ledger at the 56th Berlin International Film Festival in February 2006. Ledger was an avid chess player, and had participated in tournaments when he was young. 61 As an adult, he often played with other chess enthusiasts at Washington Square Park in Manhattan. 62 He was a fan of West Coast Eagles, an Australian rules football team that competes in the Australian Football League, AFL, and is based in his hometown of Perth. 63. Ledger was an obsessive photographer who loved taking stills, then drawing over them with paint, markers, or nail polish. 64. Relationships. Ledger dated Lisa Zane, Christina Cocchi, Heather Graham, and Naomi Watts. 65-66. In 2004, Ledger began a relationship with actress Michelle Williams after meeting her on the set of Brokeback Mountain. Their daughter, Matilda Rose Ledger 67 was born on October 28, 2005 in New York City. 68 Matilda's godparents are Brokeback Mountain CO star Jake Gyllenhaal and Williams' Dawson's Creek CO star Busy Phillips. 69 In January 2006, Ledger listed his residence in Bronte, Sydney, for sale 70 and returned to the U.S., where he shared a house with Williams in Boehm Hill, Brooklyn from 2005 to 2007. 71 In September 2007, Williams' father confirmed to the Daily Telegraph that Ledger and Williams had broken up. 72. After Ledger's breakup with Williams, the press linked him romantically with supermodel Helena Christensen, actress Kate Hudson 73 and model Gemma Ward. 74 Ward later stated that she had begun dating Ledger in November 2007 and that they and their families had spent that year's Christmas together in their hometown of Perth. 75. Health problems and drug use. In an interview with Sarah Lyle, published in the New York Times on November 4, 2007, Ledger stated that he often could not sleep when taking on roles, and that the role of the Joker in The Dark Knight, 2008, was causing his usual insomnia. "Last week I probably slept an average of 2 hours a night. I couldn't stop thinking. My body was exhausted, and my mind was still going." 76 At that time, he told Lyle that he had taken 2 Ambien pills, after taking just one had not sufficed, and those left him in a stupor, only to wake up an hour later, his mind still racing. 30. Prior to his return to New York City from his last film assignment in London, in January 2008, While he was apparently suffering from some kind of respiratory illness, he reportedly complained to the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus CO star Christopher Plummer that he was continuing to have difficulty sleeping and taking pills to help with that problem, confirming earlier reports that Ledger hadn't been feeling well on set. Plummer said, "We all caught colds because we were shooting outside on horrible, damp nights." But Heath went on, "And I don't think he dealt with it immediately with the antibiotics. I think what he did have was the walking pneumonia. On top of that, he was saying all the time, 'Damn it, I can't sleep,' and he was taking all these pills to help him." 77. Speaking to Interview magazine after Ledger's death, Michelle Williams confirmed reports that the actor had experienced trouble sleeping. "For as long as I'd known him, he had bouts with insomnia. He had too much energy. His mind was turning, always turning." 78. Ledger was widely reported to have struggled with substance abuse. 79. Following Ledger's death, Entertainment Tonight aired video footage from 2006 in which Ledger stated that he used to smoke 5 joints a day for 20 years, which would mean he started doing so at the age of just 6. 80-81 and news outlets reported that his drug abuse had prompted Williams to request that he move out of their apartment in Brooklyn. 82. Ledger's publicist asserted that reports of Ledger's alleged drug use had been inaccurate. 80. Death. At around 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, January 22, 2008, Ledger was found naked and lying face down unresponsive in his bed by his housekeeper, Teresa Solomon, and his massage therapist, Diana Wolozin, in his loft at 421 Broome Street in the Soho neighborhood of Manhattan. 6483. According to police, Wolozin, who had arrived early for a 3 p.m. appointment with Ledger, telephoned his friend Mary Kate Olsen for help. Olsen, who was in Los Angeles at the time, directed her New York City private security guard to go to the scene. At 3:26 p.m., less than 15 minutes after she first saw him in bed and only a few moments after the first call to Ms. Olsen, Wolozin dialed 911 to say that Mr. Ledger was not breathing. At the urging of the 911 operator, Wolozin administered CPR, which was unsuccessful in reviving him. 84. Paramedics and emergency medical technicians arrived 7 minutes later, at 3:33 p.m. but were also unable to revive him. 684-85 At 3:36 p.m., Ledger was pronounced dead, and his body was removed from the apartment. 684 He was 28 years old. Autopsy and Toxicology Report. On February 6, 2008, the Office of Chief Medical Examiner of the City of New York released its conclusions. Those conclusions were based on an initial autopsy that occurred January 23, 2008, and a subsequent complete toxicological analysis. 786-87 The report concluded that Ledger died as the result of acute intoxication by the combined effects of oxycodone, hydrocodone, diazepam, temazepam, alprazolam, and doxylamine. It added, "We have concluded that the manner of death is accidental, resulting from the abuse of prescribed medications." 79. Although the Associated Press and other outlets reported that police estimated Ledger's death occurred between 1 p.m. and 2:45 p.m. on January 22, 2008, 88 the medical examiner's office announced that it would not publicly disclose the official estimated time of death. 89-90 The official announcement of the cause and manner of Ledger's death heightened concerns about the growing problems of prescription drug abuse or misuse and combined drug intoxication, CDI. 887-91. In 2017, Jason Payne James, a forensic pathologist, asserted that Ledger might have survived if hydrocodone and oxycodone had been left out of the combination of drugs that the actor took just prior to his death. He furthermore stated that the mixture of drugs, combined with a possible chest infection, caused Ledger to stop breathing. 92. Federal investigation. Late in February 2008, a DEA investigation of medical professionals relating to Ledger's death exonerated 2 American physicians, who practice in Los Angeles and Houston, of any wrongdoing, determining that the doctors in question had prescribed Ledger other medications, not the pills that killed him. 93-94. On August 4, 2008, Mary Kate Olsen's attorney Michael Miller issued a statement denying that Olsen supplied Ledger with the drugs causing his death and asserting that she did not know their source. 95-96 In his statement, Miller said specifically, despite tabloid speculation, Mary Kate Olsen had nothing whatsoever to do with the drugs found in Heath Ledger's home or his body, and she does not know where he obtained them. 97. After a flurry of further media speculation, on August 6, 2008, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan closed its investigation into Ledger's death without filing any charges and rendering moot its subpoena of Olsen. 98-99 With the clearing of the 2 doctors and Olsen, and the closing of the investigation because the prosecutors in the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office don't believe there's a viable target, it is still not known how Ledger obtained the oxycodone and hydrocodone in the lethal drug combination that killed him. 99-100. Estate. Ledger's will was filed in New York City on February 28, 2008. 101-102 His father, Kim Ledger, said that he considered the financial well-being of Heath's daughter Matilda Rose an absolute priority, whilst also stating that her mother, Michelle Williams, was an integral part of our family. He added, "They will be taken care of, and that's how Heath would want it to be." 103 Ledger's will was signed in 2003, prior to his involvement with Williams and the birth of their daughter. The will divided half of his estate between his parents and half between his siblings. 104-105. A March 31, 2008 report asserted that Ledger may have fathered another child. 106-107-108 The mother and stepfather of the child in question dismissed the claim. 109-110. On September 27, 2008, Kim Ledger stated that the family had agreed to leave Ledger's $16.3 million estate to Matilda Rose Ledger. 111-112. Legacy. Memorial tributes and services. Dark doorway and doorstep with section of footpath. On the lower part of the dark door is a partly obscured Australian flag with dark blue background, red and white crosses on top left, large white star underneath and 3 white stars at the right with others obscured. Obscuring the right side of the flag is a white sheet with light blue writing, "Love and miss you always Heath," with 2 red hearts nearby. Other writing includes "I'll never quit you" in darker blue. More writing is indistinct. This sheet also has 6 photos of a man. Above the flag, on the door is a smaller sheet with a photo of a man and indistinct writing below. On the doorstep and section of footpath are some 14 groups of flowers wrapped in plastic or paper, together with 9 or so cards, 5 or 6 lit candles, and more photos. On the right side is a straw hat. Memorial for Ledger, outside 421 Broome Street, Soho, Manhattan, January 23, 2008. As the news of Ledger's death became public, throughout the night of January 22, 2008, and the following day, media crews, mourners, fans, and other onlookers began gathering outside his apartment building, with some leaving flowers or other memorial tributes. 113-114. The following day, at 10:50 a.m. AWST, Ledger's parents and sister appeared outside his mother's house in Applecross, a riverside suburb of Perth, and read a short statement to the media expressing their grief and desire for privacy. 115 Within the next few days, memorial tributes were communicated by family members: Kevin Rudd, then Prime Minister of Australia; Eric Ripper, then Deputy Premier of Western Australia; Warner Brothers, distributor of The Dark Knight, and thousands of Ledger's fans around the world. 116, 117, 118, 119. Several actors made statements expressing their sorrow at Ledger's death, including Daniel Day-Lewis, who dedicated his Screen Actors Guild Award to him, saying that he was inspired by Ledger's acting. Day-Lewis praised Ledger's performances in Monsters Ball and Brokeback Mountain, describing the latter as unique, perfect. 120-121 Vern Troyer, who was working with Ledger on the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus at the time of his death, had a heart shape, an exact duplicate of a symbol that Ledger scrawled on a piece of paper with his email address, tattooed on his hand in remembrance of Ledger because Ledger had made such an impression on him. 122 On February 1, in her first public statement after Ledger's death, Michelle Williams expressed her heartbreak and described Ledger's spirit as surviving in their daughter. 123-124. After attending private memorial ceremonies in Los Angeles, Ledger's family members returned with his body to Perth. 125-126 On February 9, a memorial service attended by several hundred invited guests was held at Penrose College, attracting considerable press attention. Afterward, Ledger's body was cremated at Fremantle Cemetery 127, followed by a private service attended by only 10 of his closest family members. 128, 129, 130 The ashes were taken from Fremantle for interment at an unspecified location. 131 Later that night, his family and friends gathered for a wake on Cotslow Beach. 132, 133, 134. The Eskimo Joe song Foreign Land was written as a tribute to Ledger. 135 The band were in New York at the time of his death. In January 2011, the State Theatre Centre of Western Australia in Ledger's hometown of Perth named a 575-seat theatre the Heath Ledger Theatre after him. For the opening of the theatre, Ledger's Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor was on display in the theatre's foyer along with his Joker costume. 136. Bon Iver's Perth was inspired by Heath Ledger. 137 Justin Vernon, the lead singer and songwriter of the American indie folk band, revealed in 2011 that he had begun working on the song in 2008 and was scheduled to meet with a music video director who was good friends with Ledger, Matt Amato. "The first thing I worked on, the riff and the beginning melodies, was the first song on the record, Perth," Vernon told Exclaim. 138 Amato was directing the band's The Wolves, Act IN 2, music video the day that Ledger died. "It was no longer about just making a Bon Iver music video anymore," Vernon says. "This was now our chance to be there with Matt as he grieved. It was a 3-day wake." Amato told Vernon stories about Ledger that eventually became the inspiration for Perth. the opening track to the band's second studio album Bon Iver, 2011. 137. Method and style. Ledger on the March 2006 cover of Rolling Stone. You know when you see the preachers down south? And they grab a believer and they go, "Whoom. I touch you with the hand of God." And they believe so strongly, they're on the ground shaking and spitting. And fuck's sake, that's the power of belief. Now, I don't believe in Jesus, but I believe in my performance. And if you can understand that the power of belief is one of the great tools of our time and that a lot of acting comes from it, you can do anything. Ledger, during the interview with Rolling Stone in 2006, on belief, power in acting 139. Portraying a variety of roles, from romantic heroes to tragic characters, Ledger created a hodgepodge of characters that are deliberately unlike one another, stating, "I feel like I am wasting my time if I repeat myself." He also reflected on his inability to be happy with his work. "I feel the same thing about everything I do. The day I say, it's good is the day I should start doing something else." 140. Ledger liked to wait between jobs so that he would start creatively hungry on new projects. 141. In his own words, acting was about harnessing the infinite power of belief. 139. Thus using belief as a tool for creating. Directors who have worked with the actor praised him for his creativity, seriousness, and intuition. "I've never felt as old as I did watching Heath explore his talents," The Dark Knight director Christopher Nolan has written, expressing amazement over the actor's working process, genuine curiosity, and charisma. 141. Mark Forster, who directed Ledger in Monsters Ball, complimented him as taking the job very seriously, being disciplined, observant, understanding, and intuitive. In 2007, director Todd Haynes compared Ledger's presence to actor James Dean, casting Ledger as Robbie Clark, a fictive personification of Bob Dylan in I'm Not There. Drawing on the similar characteristics between the actors, Haynes further highlighted Ledger's precocious seriousness and intuition. He also felt that Ledger had a rare maturity beyond his years. 140. Ledger, however, disconnected himself in acting from perfectionism. "I'm always gonna pull myself apart and dissect the work. I mean, there's no such thing as perfection in what actors do. Pornos are more perfect than we are, because they're actually fucking." 139. Some people find their shtick, Ledger reflected on the categorization of style. "I never figured out who Heath Ledger is on film. This is what you expect when you hire me, and it will be recognizable. People always feel compelled to sum you up, to presume that they have you and can describe you. That's fine. But there are so many stories inside of me and a lot I want to achieve outside of one flat note." 140. Posthumous films and awards. Further information, list of accolades received by The Dark Knight. Ledger's death affected the marketing campaign for Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, 2008, 11:33 and also both the production and marketing of Terry Gilliam's film The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, with both directors intending to celebrate and pay tribute to his work in these films. 33-34 142 143 Although Gilliam temporarily suspended production on the latter film 34, he expressed determination to salvage it, perhaps using computer-generated imagery, CGI, and dedicated it to Ledger. 77 144 145 In February 2008, as a memorial tribute to the man many have called one of the best actors of his generation, Johnny Depp, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell signed on to take over Ledger's role, becoming multiple incarnations of his character, Tony, transformed in this magical retelling of the Faust story. 146 147 148 The three actors donated their fees for the film to Ledger's and Williams's daughter. 149. Speaking of editing The Dark Knight, on which Ledger had completed his work in October 2007, Nolan recalled, "It was tremendously emotional, right when he passed, having to go back in and look at him every day. But the truth is, I feel very lucky to have something productive to do, to have a performance that he was very, very proud of, and that he had entrusted to me to finish." 143 All of Ledger's scenes appear as he completed them in the filming. In editing the film, Nolan added no digital effects to alter Ledger's actual performance posthumously. 150 Nolan dedicated the film in part to Ledger's memory, as well as to the memory of technician Conway Wycliffe, who was killed during a car accident while preparing one of the film's stunts. 151. Released in July 2008, The Dark Knight broke several box office records and received both popular and critical accolades, especially with regard to Ledger's performance as the Joker. 152 Even film critic David Denby, who does not praise the film overall in his pre-release review in The New Yorker, evaluates Ledger's work highly, describing his performance as both sinister and frightening and Ledger as mesmerizing in every scene, concluding, "His performance is a heroic, unsettling final act. This young actor looked into the abyss." 153 Attempting to dispel widespread speculations that Ledger's performance as the Joker had in any way led to his death, as Denby and others suggest, Ledger's co-star and friend Christian Bale, who played opposite him as Batman, has stressed that, as an actor, Ledger greatly enjoyed meeting the challenges of creating that role, an experience that Ledger himself described as the most fun I've ever had, or probably ever will have, playing a character. 11 Terry Gilliam also refuted the claims that playing the Joker made him crazy, calling it absolute nonsense and going on to say, Heath was so solid. His feet were on the ground and he was the least neurotic person I've ever met. 154. Ledger received numerous awards for his Joker role in The Dark Knight. On November 10, 2008, he was nominated for 2 People's Choice Awards related to his work on the film, Best Ensemble Cast and Best On-Screen Matchup, shared with Christian Bale, and Ledger won an award for matchup in the ceremony aired live on CBS in January 2009. 155. On December 11, 2008, it was announced that Ledger had been nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor Motion Picture for his performance as the Joker in The Dark Knight. He subsequently won the award at the 66th Golden Globe Awards ceremony telecast on NBC on January 11, 2009, with Dark Knight director Christopher Nolan accepting on his behalf. 1031. Film critics, CO stars Maggie Gyllenhaal and Michael Caine and many of Ledger's peers in the film community joined Bale in calling for and predicting a nomination for the 2008 Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in recognition of Ledger's achievement in The Dark Knight. 156. Ledger's subsequent nomination was announced on January 22, 2009, the anniversary of his death. 157. Ledger went on to win the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, becoming the second person to win a posthumous Academy Award for acting, after fellow Australian actor Peter Finch, who won for 1970's IXS Network, as well as the first comic book movie actor to win an Oscar for their acting. Ledger's family attended the ceremony on February 22, 2009, with his parents and sister accepting the award on stage on his behalf. 158-32. Following talks with the Ledger family in Australia, the Academy determined that Ledger's daughter, Matilda Rose, would own the award. However, due to Matilda's age, she would not gain full ownership of the statuette until her 18th birthday in 2023. 159. Her mother, Michelle Williams, would hold the statuette in trust for Matilda until that time. 160. On April 4, 2017, a trailer was released for the documentary I Am Heath Ledger, which was released on May 3, 2017. 161. It features archival footage of Ledger and interviews Jacob Benjamin Gyllenhaal, /DLNHL/Gyllenhaal 12 Swedish, JLNHL 3 born December 19, 1980. Is an American actor who has worked on screen and stage for over 30 years. Born into the Gyllenhaal family, he is the son of film director Stephen Gyllenhaal and screenwriter Naomi Foner, and the younger brother of actress Maggie Gyllenhaal. He began acting as a child, making his debut in City Slickers, 1991, followed by roles in his father's films A Dangerous Woman, 1993, and Homegrown, 1998. His breakthrough roles were as Homer Hickam in the biopic October Sky, 1999, and a troubled teenager in the thriller Donnie Darko, 2001. Gyllenhaal expanded to big-budget films with a starring role in the 2004 disaster film The Day After Tomorrow. Gyllenhaal played Jack Twist in Ang Lee's 2005 romantic drama Brokeback Mountain, for which he won a BAFTA award and was nominated for an Academy Award. His career progressed with starring roles in the thriller Zodiac, 2007, the romantic comedy Love and Other Drugs, 2010, and the science fiction film Source Code, 2011. Further acclaim came with his roles in Denis Villeneuve's thrillers Prisoners, 2013, and Enemy, 2013, and he received nominations for the BAFTA Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role for his performances as a manipulative journalist in Nightcrawler, 2014, and a troubled writer in Nocturnal Animals, 2016. His highest-grossing release came with the Marvel Cinematic Universe superhero film Spider-Man: Far From Home, 2019, in which he portrayed Mysterio. After playing a supporting role in the drama Wildlife, 2018, Gyllenhaal starred in action or thriller projects, including the films The Guilty, 2021, Ambulance, 2022, and Roadhouse, 2024, as well as the series Presumed Innocent, 2024. Gyllenhaal has performed on stage, starring in a West End production of the play This Is Our Youth, 2002, and Broadway productions of the musical Sunday in the Park with George, 2017, as well as the plays Constellations, 2014, and Sea Wall/A Life, 2019, the last of which earned him a nomination for the Tony Award for Best Actor in a Play. Aside from acting, he is vocal about political and social issues. Life and career. 1980-2000, early life and career beginnings. Coat of Arms of the Noble House Gyllenhaal. Coat of Arms of the Noble House Gyllenhaal. Jacob Benjamin Gyllenhaal was born on December 19, 1980, in Los Angeles, California, United States, to screenwriter Naomi Foner, Nay-Aches, and film director Stephen Gyllenhaal. 5'6" actress Maggie Gyllenhaal, his older sister, appeared with him in the science fiction psychological thriller film Donnie Darko, 2001. Gyllenhaal's father, who was raised as a Swedenborgian, is a Christian 7 of Swedish and English descent and is a descendant of the Swedish noble Gyllenhaal family. 8. His last ancestor to be born in Sweden was his great-great-grandfather, Anders Leonard Gyllenhaal. 9. Gyllenhaal's mother is Jewish 10, 11, 12, 13 and was born in New York City into an Ashkenazi Jewish family from Russia and Poland. 14. 15. Gyllenhaal has said that he considers himself Jewish. 16. 17. Gyllenhaal is legally blind and has been wearing corrective lenses since he was 6. 18. On his 13th birthday, Gyllenhaal performed a bar mitzvah-like act, without the typical trappings, volunteering at a homeless shelter because his parents wanted to give him a sense of gratitude for his privileged lifestyle. 1920. As a child, Gyllenhaal was regularly exposed to filmmaking due to his family's ties to the industry. He made his acting debut as Billy Crystal's son in the 1991 comedy City Slickers. His parents did not allow him to appear in The Mighty Ducks, 1992, because it would have required him to leave home for 2 months. 6. In subsequent years, his parents allowed him to audition for roles but regularly forbade him to take them if he were chosen. 21. He was allowed to appear in his father's films several times. Gyllenhaal appeared in the 1993's A Dangerous Woman, along with sister Maggie, in Bop Gun, a 1994 episode of Homicide, Life on the Street, and in the 1998 comedy Homegrown. Along with their mother, Jake, and Maggie appeared in 2 episodes of Molto Mario, an Italian cooking show on the Food Network. Prior to his senior year in high school, the only other film not directed by his father in which Gyllenhaal was allowed to perform was the 1993 film Josh and Sam, a little-known children's adventure. 22. His parents insisted that he have summer jobs to support himself, and he thus worked as a lifeguard and as a busboy at a restaurant operated by a family friend. 21. Gyllenhaal said his parents encouraged artistic expression. I do have parents who constantly supported me in certain ways. In other ways, they were lacking. Definitely, it's in expression and creativity where my family has always been best at it. 23. Gyllenhaal graduated from the Harvard Westlake School in Los Angeles in 1998, then attended Columbia University, where his sister was a senior and from which his mother had graduated, to study Eastern religions and philosophy. At Columbia, he was a resident of John J. Hall. 24. Gyllenhaal dropped out after 2 years to concentrate on acting but has expressed intentions to eventually finish his degree. 6. Gyllenhaal's first lead role was in October Sky, Joe Johnston's 1999 adaptation of the Homer Hickam autobiography Rocket Boys, in which he portrayed a young man from West Virginia striving to win a science scholarship to avoid becoming a coal miner. The film was positively received and earned $32 million. It was described in the Sacramento News and Review as Gyllenhaal's breakout performance. 22-25. 2001-2004, Donnie Darko to the London stage. Donnie Darko, in which Gyllenhaal played his second lead role on film, was not a box office success on its initial 2001 release. Eventually, the film became a cult favorite. 26. Directed by Richard Kelly, the film is set in 1988 and stars Gyllenhaal as a troubled teenager who experiences visions of a 6-foot-tall, 1.8-meter, rabbit named Frank who tells him that the world is coming to an end. Gyllenhaal's performance was well received by critics. Gary Mears of Culture Vulture wrote that he manages the difficult trick of seeming both blandly normal and profoundly disturbed, often within the same scene. 27-28. Gyllenhaal's next role was as Pilot Kelston in 2002's Highway alongside Jared Leto. His performance was described by one critic as silly, cliched, and straight to video. 22. Gyllenhaal had more success starring opposite Jennifer Aniston in The Good Girl, which premiered at the 2002 Sundance Film Festival. He also starred in Lovely and Amazing with Catherine Keener. 29. In both films he plays an unstable character who begins a reckless affair with an older woman. Gyllenhaal later described these as teenager in transition roles. 30. Gyllenhaal later starred in the Touchstone Pictures romantic comedy Bubble Boy, which was loosely based on the story of David Vedder. The film portrays the title character's adventures as he pursues the love of his life before she marries the wrong man. 31. The film was panned by critics. 32. With one calling it stupid and devoid of any redeeming features. 33. Following Bubble Boy, Gyllenhaal starred opposite Dustin Hoffman, Susan Sarandon, and Ellen Pompeo in Moonlight Mile, 2002, as a young man coping with the death of his fiancée and the grief of her parents. The story, which received mixed reviews. 34 is loosely based on writer-director Brad Silberling's personal experiences following the murder of his girlfriend, Rebecca Schaffer. 35 In his theatrical debut, Gyllenhaal starred on the London stage in Kenneth Lonergan's revival of This Is Our Youth at the Garrick Theatre in 2002. 36 Gyllenhaal said, "Every actor I look up to has done theatre work, so I knew I had to give it a try." 37 The play ran for 8 weeks in London's West End. Gyllenhaal received favorable reviews and an Evening Standard Theatre Award in the Outstanding Newcomer category. 38-39. Gyllenhaal was almost cast as Spider-Man for 2004's Spider-Man 2, due to director Sam Raimi's concerns about original Spider-Man star Tobey Maguire's health. 40 Maguire recovered, however, and the sequel was shot without Gyllenhaal. 41. The actors later starred together in Brothers, 2009, and resemble each other enough that Gyllenhaal has jokingly complained about cab drivers often calling him Spider-Man. 42. In 2003, he also auditioned for the role of Batman in the superhero film Batman Begins and came close being offered the part, but it was given to Christian Bale. 43. 44. Gyllenhaal subsequently appeared in the science fiction blockbuster The Day After Tomorrow in 2004, CO starring Dennis Quaid as his father. 645. 2005-2011, Brokeback Mountain and leading roles. Gyllenhaal attending the premiere of Proof, 2005. Gyllenhaal attending the premiere of Proof at the 2005 Toronto International Film Festival. In 2005, Gyllenhaal was cast in the drama Proof, with CO stars Gwyneth Paltrow and Anthony Hopkins, where he played a graduate student in mathematics who tries to convince Paltrow's character to publish a revolutionary proof to a problem puzzling the mathematicians community. The film received a generally positive response. He also starred in Sam Mendes's Jarhead, where Gyllenhaal played a U.S. Marine during the First Gulf War. The film garnered a favorable response. Stephen Hunter of The Washington Post praises Gyllenhaal's performance, writing, "He makes us see his character's intelligence," adding, "He doesn't seem jealous of the camera's attention when it goes to others." 46. In Brokeback Mountain, 2005, Gyllenhaal and Heath Ledger play young men who meet as sheep herders and embark upon a sexual relationship that begins in the summer of 1963 and lasts for 20 years. 47. The film was often referred to in the media with the shorthand phrase "the gay cowboy movie." 48. Although there was differing opinion on the sexual orientation of the characters, the film won numerous accolades, including the Golden Lion Prize at the Venice Film Festival. 49. The film won 3 Academy Awards, and earned Gyllenhaal a nomination for Best Supporting Actor, but he lost to George Clooney for Syriana. 50. The film also won 4 Golden Globes, and 4 British Academy Film Awards, BAFTAs, in which Gyllenhaal won for Best Supporting Actor. 51. He and Ledger won an MTV Movie Award for Best Kiss in 2006. Shortly after the 2006 Academy Awards, Gyllenhaal was invited to join the Academy in recognition of his acting career. 52. Gyllenhaal expressed mixed feelings about the experience of being directed by Ang Lee in Brokeback Mountain but generally had more praise than criticism for his directorial style. While critical of the way Lee tended to disconnect from his actors once filming began, Gyllenhaal praised his encouraging direction of the actors and sensitive approach to the material. 53-54. At the Directors Guild of America Awards on January 28, 2006, Gyllenhaal also praised Lee for his humbleness and his respect for everyone around him. 55. When asked about his kissing scenes with Ledger in Brokeback Mountain, Gyllenhaal said, "As an actor, I think we need to embrace the times we feel most uncomfortable." 56. When asked about the more intimate scenes with Ledger, Gyllenhaal likened them to doing a sex scene with a woman I'm not particularly attracted to. 47. Following the release of Brokeback Mountain, rumors circulated regarding the actor's sexual orientation. When asked about such gossip during an interview, Gyllenhaal said, "You know it's flattering when there's a rumor that says I'm bisexual. It means I can play more kinds of roles. I'm open to whatever people want to call me. I've never really been attracted to men sexually, but I don't think I would be afraid of it if it happened." 57. Gyllenhaal narrated the 2005 short animated film The Man Who Walked Between the Towers. 58. Based on Mordecai Gerstein's book of the same name about Philippe Petit's famous stunt. 59. In January 2007, as host of Saturday Night Live, he put on a sparkly evening dress and sang "And I Am Telling You I'm Not Going" from the musical Dreamgirls for his opening monologue. 60. Dedicating the song to his unique fan base, the fans of Brokeback. 61. Later, Gyllenhaal starred in David Fincher's mystery thriller Zodiac, 2007, based on the Zodiac Killer. He played Robert Gray Smith, a San Francisco Chronicle political cartoonist. 62. In preparation for his role, Gyllenhaal met Gray Smith, and videotaped him to study his mannerisms and behavior. 63. The film received a positive response. Writing for the Sydney Morning Herald, Paul Burns opined that it was poignant, provocative, and haunting, and called Gyllenhaal terrific. 64. He next starred opposite Meryl Streep, Alan Arkin, and Reese Witherspoon in 2007's Rendition, a Gavin Hood-directed political thriller about the U.S. policy of extraordinary rendition. 65. Although it garnered a mixed response, New York Magazine's David Edelstein called Gyllenhaal compelling. He's a reticent actor, but he builds that limitation into the character. 66. 2 years later, he co-starred with Tobey Maguire and Natalie Portman in Jim Sheridan's Brothers, a 2009 remake of Susanne Bier's Danish film of the same name. 67. It was met with mixed reviews and moderate box office returns, but Anthony Quinn of The Independent thought Gyllenhaal and Maguire gave honest performances. 68. Gyllenhaal has also claimed that Maguire's performance in the film influenced his acting throughout his career. 69. The following year, Gyllenhaal played the lead role in Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, an adaptation of the video game of the same name, produced by Jerry Bruckheimer and released by Disney. He starred opposite Anne Hathaway in the romantic comedy Love and Other Drugs, released on November 24, 2010, which gained him a Golden Globe Award nomination. 70. The Guardian's Philip French welcomed Gyllenhaal's choice of a comic role, in contrast to his previous film roles, but thought the film stumbles badly. 71. For his sole project in 2011, he portrayed Colter Stevens, a U.S. Army aviation captain, in the 2011 time travel thriller Source Code. Despite noting the film's unrealistic plot, Peter Howell of the Toronto Star praised the prime performances of the cast. 72. 2012-2018, critical acclaim and Broadway debut. Gyllenhaal starred alongside Michael Pena in David Ayer's action thriller End of Watch, about two Los Angeles street cops. The film, for which Gyllenhaal was also an executive producer, was released in September 2012 and received positive reviews, with Roger Ebert deeming it one of the best police movies in recent years, a virtuoso fusion of performances and often startling action, and Salon's Andrew O'Hehir stating that the film was at least the best cop movie since James Gray's We Own the Night, and very likely since Antoine Fuqua's memorable Training Day, which, not coincidentally, was written by Ayer. 73-74. To prepare for the role, Gyllenhaal took tactical training and participated in actual police ride-alongs with CO star Pena to help establish the language of the characters. 75. Gyllenhaal at the 62nd Berlin International Film Festival, 2012. Gyllenhaal at the 2012 Berlin International Film Festival, where he served as a jury member. He served as a jury member for the 62nd Berlin International Film Festival that was held in February 2012. 76. Also in 2012, Gyllenhaal made his off-Broadway debut in Nick Payne's play If There Is I Haven't Found It Yet at the Roundabout Theatre Company's Laura Pels Theatre. 77. 2013 saw Gyllenhaal appear in two films directed by Denis Villeneuve, whom Gyllenhaal describes as an older brother. 78. The first, the thriller Prisoners, starred Gyllenhaal as a detective named Loki in search of the abductor of two young girls. Rolling Stone critic Peter Travers praised Gyllenhaal's exceptional performance in the film. 79. In their second collaboration, Gyllenhaal portrayed the dual role of a history teacher and his doppelganger in the thriller Enemy. 80. The following year, he produced and starred in the crime thriller Nightcrawler, earning Golden Globe Award and Screen Actors Guild Award nominations for his performance. 81. Ben Sachs of the Chicago Reader called Gyllenhaal's performance attention-grabbing and said that he creates a memorable screen presence. 82. Gyllenhaal debuted on Broadway in Payne's Constellations at the Samuel J. Friedman Theatre opposite Ruth Wilson, also in her Broadway debut. 83. The production opened in January 2015 and closed in March of the same year. 84. That same year, he starred in the comedy Accidental Love, which was filmed in South Carolina with Jessica Biel, as well as Antoine Fuqua's sports drama Southpaw. 85. 86. Writing for The Independent, Jeffrey McNabb called his portrayal of a boxer in Southpaw plausible and complimented his emotional vulnerability, despite an unoriginal plot. 87. He then portrayed Scott Fisher in Baltasar Kormaker's Everest, based on the 1996 Mount Everest disaster. 88. The film was a commercial success, grossing $203 million worldwide. 89. Finally, he appeared in Jean-Marc Vallée's comedy drama Demolition, playing an investment banker Davis Mitchell, who rebuilds his life after losing his wife. 90. The Village Voice's Bilge Eberai praised his performance, writing, "He nails Davis's boyish curiosity, the quiet, wide-eyed uncertainty of someone discovering the world for the first time." 91. He also served as a jury member for the main competition of the 2015 Cannes Film Festival. 92-93. In 2016, he starred in Tom Ford's neo-noir thriller Nocturnal Animals, based on the 1993 novel Tony and Susan by Austin Wright. 94. The film received positive reviews. 95. The Sydney Morning Herald's Sandra Hall praised Gyllenhaal's brilliant portrayal of his two roles, while Justin Chong of the Los Angeles Times wrote that his performance contained rich emotional shadings and escalating intensity that becomes overwhelming. 96-97. In October 2016, he appeared in 4 benefit concert performances of the Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine musical Sunday in the Park with George at the New York City Center as the titular character. 98. Alexis Solosky of The Guardian gave the performance a perfect 5-star review and hailed Gyllenhaal's superb singing. 99. Starting in February 2017, Gyllenhaal reprised the role at the reopened Hudson Theatre on Broadway. 100. Ben Brantley of the New York Times praised his searing theatrical presence, in which his eyes are his center of gravity. 100. He was scheduled to appear in Lanford Wilson's Burn This on Broadway under the direction of Michael Mayer in 2017. 101. However, a new production of Burn This took place in 2019 with Adam Driver appearing, with Gyllenhaal's production having reportedly been abandoned. 102. In 2017, Gyllenhaal starred as astronaut David Jordan in the science fiction horror film Life 94. Slant Magazine's Eric Henderson stated that Gyllenhaal was dead behind the eyes from his first scene. 103. He also had a supporting role in the action-adventure film Okja and starred in the drama Stronger, based on Boston Marathon bombing survivor Jeff Bauman. 94. In his review of the latter, The Independent's Jeffrey McNabb complimented Gyllenhaal's versatility and outstanding portrayal of Bauman. 104. The following year, he co-starred in the drama Wildlife opposite Carey Mulligan, in which he plays a father who temporarily abandons his family to take a dangerous job. It is based on the 1990 novel of the same name by Richard Ford. Ella Kemp, writing for Sight and Sound magazine, praised the chemistry of the lead actors, which fizzes with an effortless dynamism. 105. He also had a role in the Western drama The Sisters Brothers, 2018. 94. 2019 present, action and thriller films. Gyllenhaal reunited with Nightcrawler director Dan Gilroy in the thriller film Velvet Buzzsaw, in which he plays art critic Mort Van Walt. 106. The film premiered at the 2019 Sundance Film Festival and was distributed by Netflix. Variety's Peter D. Brudge opined that Gyllenhaal was relishing another of those cartoonishly camp performances. 107. That same year, Gyllenhaal played comic book villain Mysterio/Quentin Beck in the superhero film Spider-Man: Far From Home, a sequel to Spider-Man: Homecoming, set within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. 108. It was one of the highest-grossing films of the year. 109. He appeared alongside Tom Sturridge in Seawall/A Life, a double bill of monologues by Nick Payne and Simon Stevens, at the Hudson Theater on Broadway in 2019. 110. He garnered a Tony Award nomination for Best Actor in a Play for his performance. 111. Gyllenhaal also lent his voice for the animation Spirit Untamed, 2021. 112. That same year, he played Detective Joe Baylor in the crime thriller The Guilty, a remake of the Danish film of the same name. 113. In 2022, he starred as a criminal in Michael Bay's action thriller Ambulance. The film received mixed reviews from critics. 114. Gyllenhaal also voiced a farmer in the Disney animation Strange World. 112. 115. He appeared in Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, 2023, and Doug Liman's action film Roadhouse, 2024. 116. 117. Following the success of Roadhouse, his production company, 9 Stories, signed a first-look deal with Amazon MGM Studios. 118. 119. In 2024 it was announced that Gyllenhaal would return to Broadway playing Iago in the 2025 revival of William Shakespeare's tragedy Othello starring opposite Denzel Washington. 120. In June 2024, he joined the cast of the upcoming science fiction monster film The Bride, in an undisclosed role. 121. Public image. Gyllenhaal was named one of People's 50 Most Beautiful People in 2006. 122. He was also listed in People's Hottest Bachelors of 2006. 123. In April 2012, Shalom Life ranked him number 6 on its list of the 50 most talented, intelligent, funny, and gorgeous Jewish men in the world. 124. He was ranked number 35 in Empire's poll of the 100 sexiest movie stars in 2013. 125. In another poll conducted by Glamour, Gyllenhaal was selected as one of the sexiest men of the year 2018. 126. Personal life. Family and relationships. Further information, Gyllenhaal family. Gyllenhaal's sister Maggie is married to actor Peter Sarsgaard, Gyllenhaal co-star in Jarhead and Rendition. 127. In December 2006, Gyllenhaal and his sister escaped a fire that destroyed Menka's Inverness Lodge, a famed lodge and restaurant in Inverness, California, at which they were vacationing. The two were among a dozen or so guests who fled after the fire, sparked by a falling tree, broke out at about 3 a.m. CO owner and celebrity chef Daniel DeLong said the pair were supportive despite having to brave the wind and cold. Jake was helping me pull things out of the fire, DeLong said. 128. Gyllenhaal has godparents whom he describes as celebrity godparents. Actor and director Paul Newman was his godfather. 129. And actress Jamie Lee Curtis is his godmother. 6. 129 other godparents of unknown status include a gay couple 130, 131 and cinematographer Robert Elswit. 132. 133 Gyllenhaal is the godfather of Matilda Rose Ledger, born October 28, 2005, daughter of his Brokeback Mountain co-stars Heath Ledger and Michelle Williams. 134. Gyllenhaal began dating actress Kirsten Dunst in 2002 after his sister Maggie, who starred with Dunst in Mona Lisa Smile, introduced them. They eventually broke up in 2004 on friendly terms. 135 He dated his Rendition co-star Reese Witherspoon from 2007 until 2009. 136. 137 He dated singer-songwriter Taylor Swift from October 2010 to January 2011. 138. 139 and model Alyssa Miller from July to December 2013. 140. 141 Gyllenhaal has been in a relationship with French model Jean Cadieux since late 2018. 142. Political views and other interests. Gyllenhaal once filmed a commercial for Rock the Vote and, along with his sister, visited the University of Southern California to urge students to vote in the 2004 U.S. presidential election. 143 He also campaigned for Democratic Party presidential nominee John Kerry. 144 He has said that it frustrates me when actors talk politics. I'm political and I make choices in my movies that I think are political. I try and say things with what I do. Rightly or wrongly, young actors have all the power. 6 In an interview, he remarked that it's a sad time when actors are politicians and politicians are actors. 145 In the 2018 midterm elections, Gyllenhaal endorsed U.S. Senate candidate Beto O'Rourke. His endorsement came in the form of a Facebook post that included a picture of him in a Beto shirt and a caption that also endorsed Stacey Abrams, Andrew Gillum, Kirsten Sinema, and Jackie Rosen in their respective Senate or gubernatorial elections. 146. Gyllenhaal recycles regularly, and said in an interview that he spends $400 a year to have trees planted in a Mozambique forest, partly to promote the Future Forests program. 147-148 After filming The Day After Tomorrow, he flew to the Arctic to promote awareness of climate change. 149-150 He has described climate activist Greta Thunberg as an inspiring figure. 151. In 2003, Gyllenhaal participated in an advertising campaign by the American Civil Liberties Union. 152-153 Gyllenhaal is the honorary chair of the New Eyes for the Needy Advisory Board 154 and has signed on to help the TV fundraiser Stand Up to Cancer. 155 Gyllenhaal is on the board of directors for the Anti-Recidivism Coalition and volunteered in California juvenile detention centers with Scott Budnick. 156 In 2014, Gyllenhaal attended an event that benefited the Headstrong Project, an organization that provides treatment to military veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, during which he read a poem by a veteran. 157 And in 2017 he participated in a fundraiser to help survivors who lost limbs during the September 11 attacks in 2001. 158 Gyllenhaal has studied Buddhism and has said, "I am not a card-carrying Buddhist, but I do try to practice mindfulness and that it is his goal to meditate every day." 159-160. Acting credits and awards. Main articles, Jake Gyllenhaal on screen and stage and list of awards and nominations received by Jake Gyllenhaal. Gyllenhaal's most acclaimed films, according to the review aggregate site Rotten Tomatoes, include October Sky, 1999, Donnie Darko, 2001, Lovely and Amazing, 2002, Brokeback Mountain, 2005, Zodiac, 2007, Source Code, 2011, End of Watch, 2012, Nightcrawler, 2014, and Stronger, 2017. He has received numerous accolades, including a BAFTA Film Award, an Independent Spirit Award, and nominations for an Academy Award, 3 Golden Globe Awards, 3 Screen Actors Guild Awards and 3 Tony Awards. Brokeback Mountain is a 2005 American neo-western romantic drama film directed by Ang Lee and produced by Diana Ossana and James Shamus. Adapted from the 1997 short story by Annie Proulx, the screenplay was written by Ossana and Larry McMurtry. The film stars Heath Ledger, Jake Gyllenhaal, Anne Hathaway, and Michelle Williams. Its plot depicts the complex romantic relationship between 2 American cowboys, Ennis Del Mar and Jack Twist, in the American West from 1963 to 1983. Lee became attached to the project in 2001 after previous attempts to adapt Proulx's story into a film did not materialize. Focus Features and River Road Entertainment would jointly produce and distribute the film. After Ledger and Gyllenhaal's casting was announced in 2003, filming commenced in various locations in Alberta in 2004. Brokeback Mountain premiered at the 2005 Venice International Film Festival, where it won the Golden Lion, and was released to theaters on December 9 that year. The film received widespread critical acclaim, with high praise for the performances of Ledger and Gyllenhaal. It emerged as a commercial success at the box office, grossing over $178 million worldwide against its $14 million budget, and won various accolades. At the 78th Academy Awards, Brokeback Mountain was nominated for Best Picture and won for Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Original Score. It garnered 7 nominations at the 63rd Golden Globe Awards, winning Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Director, and Best Screenplay and Best Song. At the 59th British Academy Film Awards, Brokeback Mountain had 9 nominations, winning Best Film, Best Direction, Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor, Gyllenhaal. It was the film that topped the Best of the Year lists. 3. Brokeback Mountain was subject to controversies. Its loss to Crash, 2004, for the Academy Award for Best Picture, subsequent censorship and criticism from conservative media outlets received significant attention. The sexuality of the main characters has been subject to discussion. Brokeback Mountain has also been regarded as a turning point for the advancement of queer cinema into the mainstream. In 2018, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant and was listed on the ballot for the American Film Institute's list of AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movies, 10th Anniversary Edition. Since then, it has been ranked by several publications, film critics, and scholars as one of the best films of the 2005 the 21st century 6 and of all time. 7-8. Plot. In Wyoming in 1963, cowboys Ennis Del Mar and Jack Twist are hired by rancher Joe Aguirre to herd his sheep through the summer on grazing pastures on Brokeback Mountain. After a night of heavy drinking, Jack makes a pass at Ennis. While initially reluctant, Ennis becomes receptive, and he and Jack have sex in their tent. Despite Ennis telling Jack that it was a one-time incident, they develop a sexual and emotional relationship. Near the end of their work contract, Ennis and Jack have a brawl that leaves both of them bloodied. Before parting ways, Ennis offhandedly laments that he left one of his shirts on the mountain. Ennis marries his longtime fiancée Alma Beers and they have 2 daughters, Alma Jr. and Jenny. Jack returns the next summer seeking work, but Aguirre, who observed Jack and Ennis engaging in homosexual activity on the mountain, tells him he has no work for guys who stem the rows. Jack moves to Texas, where he meets rodeo rider Lurayan Newsom, the daughter of a wealthy agricultural machinery manufacturer. They marry and have a son. After 4 years apart, Jack visits Ennis. Upon meeting, they kiss passionately, which a stunned Alma inadvertently sees. At a motel room, Jack wants them to create a life together, but Ennis refuses to abandon his family and